everybody. This is Scorpio
and Aquarius. This is Truth and Oneness Discussions. But today we're going to be talking about how, because I think early on at some point on this channel, I talked about wanting to discuss Scorpio and Aquarius and how they interact with each other. So this is one of those videos. So this is how this topic of this Aquarius and Scorpio
is how we argue and how we get through all that.
Yeah. So, do you want to start while I get my brain together?
Yeah. All right. So pretty much, most people know, especially you Scorpios out there, that you can be very vengeful, very spiteful, and you like to hold on to things and think of ways to kind of like, I guess, sting people, poison them, and watch them come crashing down and just kind of like bask in that glory. But when you find someone that you actually really like, those typical traits, at least for me, kind of go away. It's like it like gets to the point where I'm like, I think about that kind of stuff and I just let it go. It's not as important because I have definitely stung people before.
Those traits go away for the particular love interest you're talking about?
Yes.
All right, so obviously, no, we're not just our zodiac signs or astrology, but I find astrology to be really interesting, and I like to read about it a lot, and numerology and all that stuff. And we're not just our sun signs, obviously. You are a Scorpio sun, Aries moon, and Cancer rising, and I am a Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, and I think a Cancer moon. So that's kind of a interesting mix. And of course there's the rest of the chart, which
all over the place.
Yeah, well, all of that plays into, in general, how your personality or how you interact with the world has an influence on, right? So so the main thing out there is that one of the worst combinations in astrology is the Scorpio and the Aquarius, right? And mainly because I think one of the things they say is that so the Aquarius and Scorpio. So I'll just read this what it says. Keeping a long-term relationship between these two signs may prove to be a little difficult, as a Scorpio is a feeling sign and the Aquarius is a thinker. Both signs are very stubborn. We're both fixed signs. They proved basically that's kind of the gist of it, I guess, right? You can go in it. It can be kind of immediate, like intense attraction, and then like can kind of bumpy, and then like boring, and then they go their separate ways, or get irritated with each other and go their separate ways, or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. But so for us, yeah. So how does that work with us?
Pretty much how it goes is just like most relationships, it's gives and takes, but a lot in our relationship is there has to be effort put on both sides, because both of us can tell when there's not effort, and like we have to have a good balance on that. One person can't be too needy or like too pushy, because the other person definitely like responds negatively to that, and you can't be too aloof and too distant, because the other person responds to that negatively as well.
What are you trying to say there?
You have to keep yourself pretty balanced, and like he gives and takes, kind of like feel the other person out, kind of like work together.
I will say that the Scorpio is a lot, or at least with us two human beings here, this Scorpio is a lot better at keeping maybe more of a balance, or like being more, what do you call it? I don't know if Aquariuses are selfish people, or am I just a selfish Aquarius, or just not very aware of the other person a lot of the time, because we're usually off thinking about other stuff or doing other things, and then you're like, oh, hey, oh, hi, you. Oh, you're here, that's right. And so what happens a lot of our arguments, we don't argue. We're fortunate, actually, that we don't argue very much. But when we do, the very rare times when it has gotten kind of like more intense, it does kind of end up in that sort of like hurricane situation. But we haven't had very many like that, and we're actually pretty good, because Scorpio and Aquarius are pretty good at communication. Yeah. So we when we do get into disagreements, we're fairly good at talking it out and trying to understand where's the problem and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff, and figuring out understanding and like how to like what do you call it, repair it and move from there or whatever.
Definitely, communication that works really good with damage control, because it's like, obviously you don't want anyone dwelling on it or a misunderstanding. So it's like we'll have these heated arguments sometimes, and then later we're like, okay, like let's come together and like let's talk this out. Like we need to figure out like what happened there, instead of just like both being like, well, obviously he doesn't like me or she doesn't like me. We actually start to break down the problem to figure out like what exactly happened, because it can be just something as simple as like a misunderstanding, or like the idea was completely just different to the other person, and unless you could talk about. Oh, sorry.
No. That's another thing is, well, I mean, I don't know if it's just because we're two different people, or the Scorpio and Aquarius, we think very differently, because of course the Scorpio is a water sign and Aquarius is an air sign, and so the way we even think about things and process like incidences with each other or whatever are almost they're very different. So we have to learn or try to understand how the other person normally, I guess, feels about things.
Yeah, and the thing is, with most Scorpios out there, as you already know, when it comes to feelings, you are completely blank on the outside, but you have a well of emotions potentially going on underneath. That was one of the things that I had to come through and actually like discuss, which I'm not really comfortable with telling anyone how I'm feeling, but I will discuss this with the Aquarius to let them understand.
This Aquarius.
Yeah, this Aquarius only. So she understands like where I'm coming from, because otherwise it'd be her staring at me blankly like, what's going on? Why are you like getting irritated? I don't get it.
And that actually happens quite a lot. That's probably our typical like argument situation. Or I get irritated. No, it's usually me that gets irritated by something. And of course, I don't know, like I said, as Aquarius, we're kind of, we have to like take a minute to take a step back and kind of be like, well, what else is going on in this? It's not just me getting irritated. Like, what the F's wrong with you, man, or whatever. And then like, and then like just whatever, try to start an argument, say, yeah, obviously you're the problem, or just do this or whatever. The way we say things, that's another big thing that comes up with us, is how I say things to you. I don't mean to come off sounding like cold and like demanding or whatever, but apparently that's a big issue here. When we do argue, or if I'm just asking of something, or if I'm irritated about something, it always comes off to the Scorpio here as being like super like rude and like whatever, when I almost never mean to be that way. Of course, right?
Yeah, it definitely the way, because she just says things and she just feels like the content of the words is the part, but I pick up on the more subtle emotions behind it, and I'm like, why are you being disrespectful right now? It's like, why are you attacking me with those words? And she's like, oh, I'm just telling you like what it is, how it is. I'm like, that's not really how you need to address it with me.
And I'm always like, well, what are you talking about? How else do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to write it down and then give you the paper so I don't like talk the words? Like, I don't get it. And that is where a lot of our like
circular arguments come from.
Yeah, is how for me to communicate more nicely to the Scorpio, I guess. Is that what it is?
Well, it's just the context and everything, but it's like it. But with doing that, because we're willing to work on our relationship all the time, it's like it actually gets better and easier to discuss these things, and these circular arguments happen less and less and less frequently. So it's like we have longer periods of time where there's lots of bliss and a lot less misunderstandings. So things work quite a bit more. But you have to be able to put in that effort to communicate. And we're really good at communicating.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, because they say, the Scorpio and Aquarius, they're probably like some of the worst combination in the zodiac, quote unquote, which is interesting, because whenever I go to post or whatever about where they say that in the comment section, there's always like a long list of people that are in a Scorpio Aquarius relationship, like, well, ours relationship, and they've been together for like 10 or 20 years and it works just fine. But I think that also goes to tell you that, I mean, maybe they are hard to stay together, but I think when they do, they're probably some of the most committed relationships. At least I think.
How long have you been together now? 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, something like that.
8 years. 8 years. Yeah. We just got to 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and my longest relationship before that was with someone who was only for 4 years. So it's like it is easy to get to this point. It doesn't even feel like it's been that long, because it's still like a really good time, really fun, very connected time. We enjoy like communicating. It feels like weird when we don't get to talk. So.
But yes, definitely an interesting combination. I think as an Aquarius person, for me, just personally as an Aquarius,
You Aquarius out there, I already know you're all different.
yes, we're all different. Okay, I'm a very unique person. All right, but I think if I don't know if I went about this like too cold and calculated or whatever, but for me, as far as finding a long-term partner, I don't think I would have picked anyone. It's almost like I was looking for a Scorpio, basically, when I was doing my searching back in the day, if you know what I mean. Because of, I don't know. I don't feel like that there's a better combination for an Aquarius. I mean, I guess it obviously depends on the two people, but as far as like the I don't know, because there's some other intellectual signs out there that can match. Well, like the other Aquarius can match the Aquarius, but like it's a different kind of. It's like different type of intellect that matches. So it's like the perfect amount of like difference. So it's not too much the same.
Like interested.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But no, very interesting combination and arguments. Yeah, they get better at them, and they're not like terrible, but we
everything just works out, and the more we put into it, the better it gets. And so
yes, Scorpios and Aquariuses can be in relationships. Yes. And
yes, indeed.
Peace out.